Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. First order of business will be pledge allegiance. Would everybody join in? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda review. Basically, we're dealing with two items. I don't know if there's anything else that really needs to come into play tonight.
You did add the LDR.
Yeah. Nobody else has any additions? Okay. You can take some public comment. We're open for that, but only for issues that are not on the agenda. Okay, so and then we'll move right into the public hearing and possible adoption by the select board of the municipal plan. And I know Ed here, I'll let you take over and do the introduction.
Okay, gentlemen, ma'am, always a pleasure to be here. It means one significant thing for us. The job is done. I want to commend the work of my fellow board members. The man to my left, Ross DeVoy, the vice chair. Heather Bruskowski, I don't think she's here tonight. Steve Larock, and Oliver Manning, who is not able to be with us tonight. We had some long meetings, but they always got up and went to work the next day. I was lucky, I didn't have to go to work the next day. We met our primary goal. Our primary goal was to shorten that report. Those of you who have read it in the past few years, 200 some odd pages. I don't think anybody really cared how many people were going to school here in 1898 and some of that other stuff. Our work was not done by Northwest Regional Planning District. Corey Parent and Amy did most of our work. And I think it was a good look for us to have a change, because different people, different ideas, different mythology, and I think it was good for us to see that. Another goal was to see development in the Southern Growth District. That was something we worked very hard on. At least 10 to 15 years have gone by since that was established. What do we have up there? A store, a garage, a small church, and a couple dozen homes. Well, we had a great exchange of ideas with a man who's been involved in that for a number of years. We kept going the other night, we kept going, and finally I think we reached a good thought, a good plan. So we stopped at that point. We instructed him to go down and meet with Amy now, put this in writing. And I think it's going to eventually, maybe another year or two, we'll see something happen up there. So that was our second goal. So at least we met our two primary goals. The other thing that we would touch on is now we start the second part of our plan. Has to look at every zoning district in this town. What can be changed? What's good? What maybe not be good? What's something that may be just appropriate? So we're going to start with that and move on. The people who will lead us in this again are Corey and Amy. They do a great job going out, digging this stuff up, and they give us a lot of reading to do. So we have a lot to do that. Some changes will take a long time to come about. There's one that I think that needs some change, is historic districts. If you read in our books and our manuals, come and visit historic Swanton. But historic Swanton is disappearing. I think we need to think of a way in which the community can work with property owners. Somehow, there must be some idea out there so that we can keep this. It seems to me it's kind of foolish for us to advertise, come visit historic Swanton. You drive by the houses, for instance, on Grand Avenue. Big stately windows in those houses years ago. Now they're small, you can see where they're rounded, and the windows have been done small, little small windows are put in there. So we're gonna have to think about that. Do we wanna be known as that? One thing I think that would be nice that we could look at doing in the future is when I guess it was the Historical Society, and I don't know who else, came up with a list of 50 historical homes in Swanton. Drive by them. Windows are changing, doors are changing, a porch has been dissolved. That's not keeping our historic sense in there. But we need to come up with some way to encourage these people to maintain these historic things for the city. I would like to see a sign given to each of these 50 houses that are historic. Maybe it might be a nice painted sign, pole out front, so when people are driving by and looking for historic Swanton, they can see it. And it won't be just something that be there. So that's what we'll be doing in the next few years as we go in now. And our focus is going to be again this year on the different zones, what's there, what shouldn't be, what should we do, the changes. So that's where we are. You have our work this year. It's now up to you people to approve it. We've approved it, and that's it.
All right, thank you, Ed. Now, this floor is open for public comments on that plan. I don't know if anybody had anything specific they wanted to bring up or a concern. Now is the time to do it. There have been other prior public hearings, and I know there's been public input involved in the process. But go ahead, Corey.
Earl, I'll just say, we talked about a couple small changes at the last meeting, and those were made. Mr. Clark brought up a paragraph that has been added, and then just a few other maps in here, but other than that, no substantive changes.
Any other members of the board have any comments on the?
It'll take you 3 hours to read it.
Well, I gotta thank the planning commission and our zoning administrator and Corey for all the effort they put into this. And I went to a few of their public hearings, and there were other members of the community there, and I thank them for their involvement too. I think the plan will work. We got a lot of things to do, there's no question about it. And this guide is gonna help us, and I hope it's gonna help us to be able to leverage maybe other outside funds to accomplish some of this, and especially if this plan, I'm sure, isn't gonna have any trouble getting approved by regional planning, is it?
They've already reviewed it, we've made all the edits they've asked, so it shouldn't.
And you'll see, Earl, in there, under all those sections, there's policy line items and others that read it that specifically state some of the things, changes or what should be seen in the future. So it's more of like a checklist, if you will, right? And could be used to get some of those funds or, chase things where it says policy, do this or support this or whatever. So hopefully it's more clear for not just you guys, but the general public.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
assuming that the board tonight passes this, it now goes to regional planning. But I have to write a letter tomorrow morning requesting that they review it. So, I would look for permission to send that on behalf of the board.
But that review cannot happen until we approve it. Is that the way?
They've done an initial review.
Yeah.
So we sent it to them, they had a few comments, we made all those adjustments, they were structural more than anything, and wanted us to add back in a few more charts we didn't think were needed, but they wanted them, so we did that. Doesn't mean they're not gonna ask for more changes in review, but the fact that we took that time and that step, hopefully they should just kind of go through, see we made the changes and move it along.
Well, one of the concerns, and I did pass this along to the regional planning commission, was hell did their our southern growth district, go with their plans for development? And it seemed like it was fairly similar. I asked for maybe some more clarification in language to allow for manufacturing in that area. They thought that way, but I do want to make sure that gets in there so there's an understanding.
And those are some of the things we're gonna address in that bylaw rewrite coming up. Along with some things that Corey and Amy have talked about already with someone local, potentially about like an interim bylaw before we can get the complete bylaw rewrite done in the next 16, 18 months maybe. It may make sense to make some changes because there are a few people that are knocking on the door that wanna get the ball rolling and we don't wanna stifle that growth, so.
Yeah, Mr. Oh,
Will this go on our website?
Yes.
Yeah.
This, very good job, really good job, and it's a great marketing tool. If anybody wants to get an idea of what's going on in Swanton, read that. It's excellent job.
Mr. Chair, I'll just mention that what Ross just said about the individual, he's actually asked to be on the agenda for the first meeting in September.
Okay. Yes, Andy.
I just want to say one thing about historic preservation. Swanton has a very active Swanton Historical Society with a very young, active history teacher as chair. So I would invite you folks to get more involved in the Historical Society and take advantage of the work that they have done and are doing.
Okay. Any other public comments?
None. There is a resolution to pass to adopt this, so instead of a regular motion, I can go over that quickly with you.
All right.
So that way it goes to the state as the resolution, so I can slide up and. Put this down, set. So it's just basic, whereas the powers and duties of the select board set forth in 24 VSA 4386, or 85, sorry, getting older, can't see it. And whereas the powers include major responsibilities such as holding 2 publicly warned meetings 30 days apart and implementing the municipal plan, and whereas the 2015 Town of Swanton municipal plan is set to expire in the fall of 23, and whereas the Town of Swanton Planning Commission has been working on the updated Swanton municipal plan, whereas the Town Planning Commission implemented a community survey and 2 public hearings, and whereas the Town of Swanton Planning Commission has completed an extensive rewrite of the municipal plan, numerous public meetings over the course of the fall of 22 and spring of 23. And whereas the Town of Swanton Select Board requested minor edits to the plan to provide further clarity and collaboration between the Town and Village of Swanton. Therefore, it is resolved by the Town of Swanton Select Board to approve the draft of the town plan presented tonight, August 22nd, 2023, as the Town and Village of Swanton Municipal Plan effective immediately. So they are effective. It's not like bylaws or anything that takes like a 60-day window. These are effective as soon as you pass this. So then we'll send everything into the state.
And that's the motion that has to be made.
Yeah, to adopt that resolution.
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All right.
I think you got one.
Corey, we adopt that resolution, you say it goes into effect right off, but you said it's gotta go to the regional plan.
So it's in effect immediately as your town plan, but regional plan can request any kind of
So
change.
what happens if regional planning makes some suggestions that aren't in here? Do we have to change it again, or?
No, so go back to the planning commission to do an amendment. We do whatever the amendment was, they would do a 30-day notice public hearing amendment and then amend it. So you can amend this at any time.
Okay.
This is just the new kind of base 8-year. And a lot of towns amend it every 2 to 3 years because something else comes up that they want to go into my large scale. These are basically fodder for going and getting grants, saying, hey, it's part of our town plan. Look at this section, we want the money. So
Yeah.
there's a good grant out there. Sometimes they try to slide something in to show community support.
Okay.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, motion carried, or we passed the resolution, so we adopted a new town plan.
Yep, good to go on my end. Sign out here, get out of here. Thank you very much.
Please keep us informed, and, Amy, if there are any issues with the regional plan, I don't think there is gonna be, but, you know, something.
There shouldn't be.
No, they reviewed it.
Yeah, I don't. What's that?
Thanks for
Okay, yes, we never made a motion to go into public hearing to start with. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Public confession is just as good.
But we should make a motion probably to exit it. It'll look like we did make a motion. And then we'll go into our regular meeting, because this was supposed to be a, like, if somebody wanna make a motion to exit this public hearing for the.
I'll make a motion to exit.
Second.
Alright, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go back to our regular meeting now, and we'll go first, before we start on the rec thing, Joel, you had something you wanted to update on the rail trail?
Yes, just real quick, the preliminary plans are complete. Just picked up a hard copy on Friday. I don't think I can make the first meeting in September, but I could come to the second meeting in September and show them to you. They're going through a review process right now with the state anyway. That's gonna take a fair number of weeks, so we got time to take a look at it, but I'd really like to get the select board to take a look and say they are good with it as drawn, hopefully, with maybe just minor changes. So we can get, I'll work with Brian to get on the agenda, but the real reason I came tonight is this week, or not this week, last week, we found out we have to get a phase 1 archaeological survey accomplished. And University of Vermont does that, and they sent us a proposal. They were very quick, sent it to the state. They sent it also to P.E.G. But this is something that we can approve hopefully tonight. UVM does it for pretty much all the projects. They're the folks that do it. $10,788.39. This would come out of the money we have already set aside for this project, of which we pay our share of the grant. The reason it's kind of urgent to get this approved is to get on UVM's schedule, and hopefully, they said they're quite sure they can get to it this fall, because if they don't get to it this fall and have to wait till spring, we won't see the results till late in 2024, and we won't be building next year. So this was a little bit of a surprise. I got the email trail that talks about it, but it just came up about a week ago. And the state, I got a confirmation from them today that they want to see this done. So I told them we had a meeting tonight, and I would see if I could get approval. And then I'd work with Brian to talk to UVM. They're just looking for a letter stating that we want this work to proceed.
What agency of the state of Vermont required this? Is it just part of the grant?
It's part of the grant, it's federal money, so they have to look at the whole, it's called the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act. Part of it is looking at archaeological, so it's through the AOT, they're running the program.
But the feds require it.
Right, it's like yes, majority of the grant money is fed. Matched with ours.
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of a small parcel. Originally, they didn't think it was gonna be a problem. They even went back to see if they could use the archaeological that was done for the rail trail, which is right next to it,
Yeah.
but they can't use that.
Okay.
They have to get a separate one.
Well, what's everybody think of that?
I don't think we have much choice if we want to continue that because it's not where it's going.
No, and if we're still shooting for next year, is this the last thing that has to be done from a permit standpoint?
This is a grant project with federal funding, so as part of the NEPA process, they could come back and request something else. I don't think so.
There have been some wetland stuff that's already.
The wetlands have all been delineated. We're all good there. So do not see that. We don't need a stormwater permit because we're disturbing less than a half acre. So it shouldn't be a stormwater issue. They've already confirmed that. So not expecting anything, but for me to sit here and look you eye to eye and say,
Yeah, I know.
this is the last thing, I can't say that. So it's part of the process.
Well, I think he's very clear about what the situation is. What are you guys thinking?
Go forward.
Can I say move forward as well?
Well, then we can make a motion to approve this and, keep it moving forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the $10,788.39 so they can do the archaeological survey.
Second. All right, motion been made and seconded. I just looked at this, so I'm gonna ask this question. Phase 1. So phase 1 comes out good, there's no phase 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. If it doesn't come out good, that's a whole, you've driven 78 long enough to know what happens. Yeah.
Money that's already been, Joel, just a clarification, it's the money that we've already put aside for this project, correct?
It's part of the grant money, so we either do this ourselves or we pay VHB to handle it, and I said, hey, we'll just call UVM directly and work with them, and they can send the bill to us.
Just making sure.
Yep.
But it'll be part of that 20% we have to pay. It's gonna go in as a total cost, and at the
Right.
end, we gotta pay 20%.
Correct.
Okay. All right, motion been made and seconded. We have any more discussion?
Only one question, Joel.
Yes.
On that last page, we're itemizing stuff.
Yes.
The vehicle rental, $70 a day, 50 cents a mile, 2 days. I don't understand that. What's that?
UVM probably rents the vehicle and gets reimbursed for it. That's my assumption.
All right.
And that may be just paying themselves back. They may pay another department that, I'm not sure. I can find out if you'd like. But
No, that's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Are we all set?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, and I'll work with Brian to get hold of UVM.
Yeah, I know, I saw him. Well, now you know. I don't think that was the case. Maybe.
Okay, now we'll get into, the community center, rec center, and we're gonna have, a report from the site committee, now that we haven't officially done yet, so. And we have all the members here except for Bill, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was on.
He's on vacation.
Yeah. So, I don't know who wants to take charge of that from the committee.
Well, I'll introduce Joel. He's the one that wrote this report. We all visited the sites. Joel and I didn't discuss who was going to present it, so. We're handing out copies of the report that has been compiled on the various sites that we have looked at. And, statement of purpose. What our goal is to create a report to document the properties which were considered, to include an explanation of which location was ultimately chosen in cooperation with agency partners. We've been tasked with evaluating all land parcels who met the criteria. The evaluation included the site visit, brief review of zoning restrictions such as setbacks and other restrictions, as well as consideration of any soil contamination issues. And the report will include the address of the proposed site, the asking price of the parcel if applicable, picture of the tax map and engineer plan, description of parcel, the size and border setbacks, other considerations, highlights and pros for the subject, concerns and cons for the location. We put out a request for proposals in July of 2023 that they are looking for sites that should be 3 to 5 acres viable for building located within the village or in very close proximity to the village, located within the village water and wastewater district or within close proximity, located within the Vermont natural gas system service area. And the proposal should include a real estate sales price, should meet all the qualifications above, and clearly identified in the proposal, and all proposals to be received by July 26th. What we have in front of us here is a report of the first 6 sites looked at and the recent request for land to house the recreation community center. So I would, Joel, would you like to take it from here?
Sure. Can I come up there?
Sure.
We have the original, because unfortunately, black and white, this is not.
I have it here.
Yeah, because some of the board members, as we're talking, we might want to flip to the colored version, because the color version on the first at least 5 sites is a geographical map, so you can actually see the street and the layout of the building accordingly. So, site 1, location was the existing recreation land, and it was put in a 3,000 square foot facility with parking on the ball field that is off Blake Street. So if you look at the site plan, you can see the 2 curves of the other 2 ball fields. So a 3,000 square foot facility with parking is all you could really get in there. You couldn't get anything larger. And I guess when we go back to the history, originally some of these sites were looked at 3,000 square feet. And in discussions with the rec center, or the rec commission, there was a big need. We've had this discussion about an indoor gym, multi-use facility, roughly 60 by 90. So that's 5,400 square feet and some storage, etc. Or 60, yeah. With storage, etc., you get up into the 9,000 to 10,000 square foot size facility. So site 1 was shown with a 3,000 square foot facility, highlights it uses the current property, easy access through Blake Street. Hard to see Blake Street here, but I think for those people familiar with the ball fields, you understand that. Doesn't address the rec committee's requirement for a multi-use gym space, so that area really isn't large enough for a 9,000 square foot facility. Substantial additional cost to relocate the ball field. It's something Cross Consulting gave us an estimate, and it was significant dollars in moving that ball field down below. You move that ball field down below and then you start constraining some of the parking. Site 2 was put in a 3,000 square foot facility down in, I don't know what term we want to call it, the pit, down in the lower parking area. And that would be shortly after you drove down into the area, it'd be on the left. That's where they proposed doing that. Has exit off Jewett Street. I say easy access, but we know there's issues related to Jewett Street traffic, but the actual access is pretty easy down in that parking area. This did not address the requirement for a multi-use gym or the 9,000. I'm gonna say 9,000, it could be 9,000, it could be closer to 10. Depending on how the building's laid out and the lobby area and the hallways to get in and out of the different rooms. The next site, site 3, was off Lake Street, former furniture store. No conversation with the owner of the property took place at that time, but in talking with Cross Consultant, it was just said, here's one thing we might be looking at. So we don't know what any asking price might be. It is close to the ball fields, it's close to the rec path, fitness path. Very limited area for parking. A 3,000 square foot facility, and you can see on this drawing 2 handicapped and maybe 4 other parking spots, just very limited. So that's almost a non-starter to begin with. If you went with the existing facility, it would need major renovations. Doesn't address the multi-use, and it's land that's not owned by the town. The site 4 that was looked at again, with no discussion with current property owners. So it was just a real preliminary, is just east of the existing rec facilities on Jewett Street. 3,000 square foot and parking, barely fits in there. So again, doesn't meet the requirement for the 9 to 10,000 square foot facility. Site 5, that is the one that there was approval at one point and we started going forward with, and that's the one down in the existing parking area, pretty much at the end of Blake Street. The engineer and architect at the time recommended it be put back that far. Could it be moved up and so on? That's all to be discussed later, depending on where this goes tonight. According to the, in accordance with Rec Committee desires, this was the preferred location. It is on property that is used by the Rec Committee. It is village property. I know we met in September of 2022 and had that discussion. Seemed like everything was moving forward. Pretty much ample parking area. You might have a time when all the ball fields are being used and a large number of people using the facility. It might get tight down there for parking, but overall, I think the majority of the time it'd be okay. It is located on the existing rec properties we discussed. Easy access off Jewett Street, but the concerns of the Jewett Street traffic, that note really should match the one earlier. Unfortunately, these next ones, you don't have the color copies, and they aren't much better here. This is the 4th Street property. I included 3 layouts. The first layout was at a request of a committee member to not have a lineal facility. So what we did is we took a look and laid the rooms out differently. You can see the roof, the peak of the roof. That would be the tall gym area, and then you would have the other rooms surrounding the facility. It had the same parking pretty much as what you see on the second drawing. Again, unfortunately, it's not in color, but you can see the 4th Street. That's a 9,000 square foot facility, about 20 parking spaces, a little pavilion. It's right, has access on the rec path, fitness path. And then there was another drawing that was done, so I included that. This site can accommodate a 9,000 square foot facility. At the time when we met with the select board, there was concern about expansion, future expansion, and possibly not enough parking. The largest usage hours, I think, would be after school. If you had some issues with parking, people would park along 4th Street. People would go over and use the school parking lot if there wasn't a large event happening at school. And really vice versa. There might be a large event at the school some evening. And if there's parking available, they might come over and park here if this site was used. It is located on the rec path. That's a highlight. Located near the elementary school. One concern, it was not located adjacent to the existing rec facilities and office, so that's understandable. The site is a brownfield. That we know pretty much what is going on there, but we know additional testing needs to be done. I know that's being worked. You can see that this facility is located outside of one of the setbacks, but because the town owns the fit path, you could do a boundary line adjustment. It really would not be a showstopper in trying to site this facility there. The next, 2023, 53 LaFar Street, that was discussed at the last meeting. So all we did was codify what was discussed at the last meeting. That was actually part of the report that was submitted at the last meeting. And then the next one is 100 Lavoie Avenue. Same thing, discussed at the last, actually 2 meetings ago, sorry. And it's the same information, nothing has changed there. And there was one other site we took a look at that isn't on here, but we did not get information as to whether it's truly for sale or how much, and that was property off Law Farm Road. We know that there are some wetland issues there. It's a 9.5 acre piece of property. Don't know if there's interest in subdividing it or not. So didn't end up in the report, but we did look at that very, last week. So apologize that we didn't get the quality color. These were actually very nice looking drawings from the engineers. Did not see that, so this is what came off the copier here. So it's making it a little harder, I think, for everybody to look and understand exactly what's going on, but can certainly get, well, you guys have that file electronically now.
Okay. The select board has had some discussions with Shelburne One, Stone, you were there today, Joe. Concerning Jewett Street and the possibility of what could transpire in the future. They're very, very good partners for this community on this project. They will cooperate, you know, and depending on, you know, what we can come up with. They understand that situation and they want to do something about it, if it's something within reason. So that's out there for now, but we'd have to find out what's going to be, what we can do in that area. That's one thing that's out there. So and we have an offer on, and I know it doesn't fit because what you're saying in here, but if we're looking at all our options with the former Wayside Furniture property, we have been offered. We have, you know, but the board hasn't discussed it, and I can't get into the details of what they want, but they did give us an offer. That might change. It all depends how you're gonna look at things. There is another piece of property. And I know you guys want a decision tonight.
I'm just the go-between.
Okay, I know everybody wants a decision tonight, but this property, we're probably gonna have to wait, I'd say at least another week, maybe. One way or the other. And that doesn't mean it's gonna be property we're gonna end up with, but if it's gonna be available, we have to look at it. I mean, we can't, you know, I mean, that Wayside Furniture property probably should have been bought a long time ago. You know, that's one of them things where you didn't do it, but this is another piece of property like that. If it's available, we've got to do something with it. Now, whether it ends up being part of this project, I think it has a lot of potential to be, especially the other thing that came out of the discussion with, I don't want to mispronounce his name because Trampus, the Mars, was there isn't really ever going to be any other land in that area available, with the exception of Pike Industries. They could leave at some point in time, but it would probably, none of us would be around when that happens, because, you know, they have enough of the arrogant stones, as he say, and I'm not going to get into details because of what their operation is, but now they're into another type of product that has the potential that they could be there for good for another 100 years, 200 years. So I don't see access to any more land in that area ever really being something that could happen. So whatever you're gonna do down there, you're not gonna have any options to expand, pretty much. That, you know, that came out of that discussion, and you know, that's something that we really need to be considering because we don't know what the future is gonna bring. I don't think that's the only thing that's changed since the last time. I mean, the proposal due down there, your original proposal, that whatever one that you agreed on, that the rec committee agreed on, might be a lot more feasible if we can properly address the issues on Jewett Street. But you've got to understand that you're done. That's what you're gonna have.
Understandable. So I just wanted, can I speak?
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly can.
So my question is the two properties that you're discussed that were brought to your attention,
Yeah.
there's no further discussion about those two properties? Were they not able to be part of this proposal that
One
you
of them
presented to
is,
us tonight?
One of them is Swanton Wayside Furniture. The other one, I can't do it right now, I'm sorry.
Is it
But I
gonna
just can't
fit
do
the
it because we've been
requirements?
asked not to do it.
But it does meet the requirements.
Yeah, oh yeah, it meets all the requirements,
All of them?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe, we'll see. But it might, here's something that I think we all have to start considering is that because of that limitation where the Swanton rec fields are now, that maybe it might not be best to do everything right, try to do everything right there. Because that's gonna limit any additional fields you might need to do in the future. Now, I'm not saying we're not gonna do anything there, and I'm not saying that we're not gonna do it the way you wanna do it, but I'm just saying it's something we need to consider because there isn't any potential future growth in that area. You're not gonna acquire any more land.
So where we were gonna put the facility in our lower parking lot for the community center, and then we have 4th Street as an option for overflow for our expansion of recreational needs, ball fields, soccer fields, community spaces. So that was our overflow
Yeah.
for expansion on our recreational needs for our community.
And if you figure that's gonna be good forever, I guess, you know, I mean, that's something that we have to consider.
Well, and there's
Wait.
also other recreational opportunities in the community that once we figure out a space and the facility, there will be a master plan for recreation. So there'll be other opportunities in our community to offset what needs to be done in the community around recreation and outdoor recreation. So there's opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the municipal plan.
Yeah.
They put it in there. They-
Yes, I understand that. Okay, Heather, you had a comment?
Yes, so you're saying that the lower parking lot is good because it has access to those extra fields above to be a part of the program of the rec center? Is
Right.
that what you're saying? So it
Well,
kind of,
all of the things listed, the location, the property being right on the recreation, it's owned by the village, plenty of parking, and it, located on our property, so there's no,
so when we look at other sites on here, it might fit, the 10,000 square foot facility might fit on another lot, but it doesn't maybe have access to outdoor space like the lower parking lot does, where it is, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay,
in proximity of the current facility.
okay. So the one that's being used right now, it will still be like considered all that with the fields, with the rec center. That kind of makes it a little bit more flexible, I would think, on that. So space is a concern, outdoor and indoor space.
Correct.
Is what I'm saying. And possible expansion into other buildings.
Recreational assets in our community.
Okay,
There's plenty of them that
Okay.
could use some love.
all right.
Yes.
Adam Paxton. Is it a given that the 4th Street property is already allocated to Swanton Rec? There's no other use for it, no nothing?
Well, the rec committee has concentrated on this facility. There's, we're still waiting for the brownfield issues there, but I don't see that. That's not gonna be a showstopper at all. So I haven't really brought any specific proposal here before the board. Yes, Joe.
last year, 2022, we'd have to find the minutes of which month the select board said that the Fourth Street property could be used by the
Recreation.
rec, and then
Yeah,
it was put on hold because of the brownfields, but the
Yeah.
approval was given, yes.
Oh, yeah, it's,
And that, just to let you know that with the size of Fourth Street, you're gonna get youth ball fields, you're not gonna get big ball fields there. Because it's kind of pie shaped, you can't get dimensionally what you need for the bigger ball fields. We laid some all out and brought that in and showed that to the board.
any other? Yes. Well, I'll start with the lady on the end, and we'll go to Ed, and we'll go to Ross.
Alicia Bordo. Also, just to note, I mean, as we've seen in St. Albans, they have multiple ball fields and other fields all over their town and within the city. So there's nothing to say that if we needed a reason for expansion beyond what we currently have or 4th Street, that we can't look to other platforms around our borders that we can utilize as our spaces and just identify them as part of our recreational fields. We shouldn't be limiting our options here.
Okay, Ed?
My view is it's needed, but I'd just like to add something to it, 500 feet to get the Historical Society out of that cellar in the library. You go to St. Albans, there it is, right up behind the park. Historical Society. You go to town after town in Vermont. The whole school has been turned into that. Where do we have them? In the cellar. You can't even see outdoors, basically. Water, paper, old photographs, old clothing, they don't mix well. Now, maybe 500 feet would still be small, but we could get something above ground. We tell people to visit historic Swanton. They don't even see where the Historic Society is. They don't even have a sign on the outside of the building. So somebody sits down there all day, or not all day, but at least twice a week, I understand people do it.
Well, Ed, your point is well taken, but that's not really the issue tonight.
I know that, but
So, but I'm gonna assume that as long as it has room for the Historical Society, you don't care where it gets built.
No, not at all. I just think 500 square feet would be nice for them.
Okay. But we're talking about different locations in the future, that's, go ahead, Ross.
My only note was just looking at the properties and thinking infrastructure, and some of these properties have issues, one of which we were at a meeting not too long ago in the fire and water district was worried about, infrastructure issues there for a couple of duplexes. So when we start thinking about some of these properties getting segmented around town, one of them is a good option because it's very large, but when I start thinking utilities and infrastructure and stuff, that project becomes much more expensive.
You talking about the property that's in here?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Which ones?
So like we were in a meeting and they were talking about the LaVoy Ave property and the fire department had major worries about a hydrant there and not being able to support those buildings. So that's just one example, but when you start thinking about the other side of the interstate and out behind Wagon Wheel or the truck stop, it's not a lot. Yes, there's water and sewer there, but to get to it it's not as diverse as what it would be right here in the village, and those are substantial costs, is all I want to say.
Earl?
Yes, Gord.
Gordon Winters, I think the logical choice, is surrounding the ball fields and where the rec department is now. I think the reason the rec is here is because the overflow and the programs that they're having are certainly overflowing and they need extra places. If either we would have to think about moving the whole rec fields to another location or having the community center near the rec fields, I would assume would be the preference of the rec board. The question I had maybe to Joel or something, if it is down in the pit, can you come in off the other road at all, like off blade, I just worry, like, are you gonna have to cut into the smaller ball field or the bigger, to get a road in? You know, now it goes down that hill, there'd be some changing, I guess, to the entrance to the,
I think the entrance
Parking.
could be worked on the existing drive off Jewett Street. We did not approach the engineers about coming off Blake Street. That the location of the building is pretty much right there at that intersection. And with the elevation change, you'd have to run out fairly far into that parking lot to get down. It would create some issues down
okay,
there. Right.
I'm just picturing it in my head, I just see the narrow road goes down into the parking, if that's gonna have to be widened or reloaded or somehow to get more traffic.
It would be nice to make some changes there, but I will say I've been down there plenty of times, watching grandkids play ball and park down there, and people get in and out of that parking area when it's full.
Have you watched my mother?
I will have to say, I don't think I did. But, yes, it's something that certainly can be looked at.
Thank you. Yeah. Mom's not watching.
And I must say, parking has been brought up as a concern in the lower parking lot, but I think there's no parking spots right now. It's just an open gravel field right now. So, but when we did have Corn Fest, we parked the vehicles. So while we were parking them, we had a better idea of the amount of parking that you actually have if people park adequately. And we have, parking spots.
And regardless of the spot you pick, I hope you speak to the Swanton Wayside, if that's a reasonable thing. I hope you at least consider it. Never hurts to speak to someone about property, and especially bordering property to you.
You bring up a good issue, Gordon, because, Blake Street would probably be a lot better access if we had Swanton Wayside first. Jewett Street would be a better access if we could acquire some property there too. Which ones might be reasonable, I don't know. I mean, we do have an offer on one of them, but, I don't know if it's gonna ever melt in.
If I could jump in on the wayside though, you can't get a large facility there.
No, I'm not saying to put the building there.
Okay.
I'm not saying that, I don't think it would be a community center. I was just saying if they have a chance to buy neighboring land in 20 years, you may be very happy that you bought.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole part of the whole issue here is, we're not doing, this is a freaking generational thing. And, if we don't have a nice place, and then part of being a nice place is the entrance to it. And, we either start thinking about these things and doing them now, or we're gonna be sorry afterwards. And, there's been plenty of projects that have been done where people saying afterwards, why did we do this? You see it a lot. Go ahead, David.
So, pick up what Gordon was saying. So site 5, I think, all the things that you got proposed, that just makes the most common sense. Infrastructure savings, you name it. There's one heck of a parking lot base that's sitting there that would cost a fortune to recreate. So there's a huge savings there. There's all new infrastructure, piping, natural gas, water for the complex that was put to where the old slaughterhouse used to be. And if you could cut that in as close to the hillside as possible, you could gain an advantage of approaching this at 2 different levels. And a smaller amount of parking up on the upper Blake level along the front of it or somehow for a smaller event, but multiple things could happen. And if you could do that, you might be able to save on size of the foundation, amount of roof needed, because you could have 2 levels under one roof on one foundation. So to take advantage of that hillside, that location, and make it an advantage as a way to economically approach this to save money, then take into the fact that we already got a huge parking overflow behind there. And then you've got the fitness trail, you got everything right kind of there. And it kind of is centrally located in that whole rec campus, to the historical museum, and to the bridge, to the path. It's a real comfortable area. doing something there to clean that hole up and make that recreational facility kind of pop seems like a good advantage versus just buying more real estate, having to develop more parking lot, having to worry about the infrastructure to get it in. It seems like a lot of those expensive pieces of the puzzle are just sit there waiting to be hooked up to, in my opinion. And it just seems like it would make the most advantage to have it as close to that core recreational facility as much as possible. Sidewalks, connecting it to Grand Avenue, to the rec trail, to all this type of, there are a lot of advantages to doing that in that location, in my opinion.
It just makes the most sense.
Makes the most common sense.
Some people don't agree.
Someone has a question.
Go ahead.
No.
Someone on
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Siobhan Cooper. How are you guys? Sorry I couldn't be there in person. So a couple things. It may have been answered already. First, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The Wayside property, was that something you were considering for the community center?
No, not particular, no, we're considering, you know, what the future of that property's gonna be. And
It was.
not to build something, no, we're not no, not what you're
Is it
saying.
renovating that and putting a gym in it?
No, we would be tearing it down.
Earl, it was one of the site
Sites.
options.
I know it was, but I'm saying,
Okay.
but it's still an issue, no matter what happens there.
It doesn't meet the requirements.
I wanted to say the other properties, personally, I feel the ones like LaFar Street and Wolfram Road, that are not, disabled and accessible, like, should not even be considered, and it also, like I've heard from other people, pulls people away from the village center. And then, I never know when's the right time to talk about it, but many people have talked about it, but I would like to bring up local option taxes as a possibility to pay for this facility or other future things. I ran into Ted Brady at the Community Leadership Summit on the 15th, and I asked him about it and for some advice, and he's gonna send me some literature on, the process of helping me to educate the community and others about how we can go about this as soon as possible, if this is something we want to look at. And also, the last thing is, I know previously I had mentioned how when the facility was at the 1.3 or 1.5 and the 600,000 ARPA, with the tax rate at the 1.7 of that time, it was calculated that a $300,000 residence would have seen an increase of $111 in taxes for this community center. And another number was not able to be estimated or generated yet because the grand list was not out yet and complete. Now that that is complete, are we able to get an estimate of what the increase for property taxes would be for the people to take this on with the new $3.5 million facility and the 1.8, et cetera, tax?
Well, I think it's a little premature to have that discussion right now because we don't know a lot of things for sure on cost and all that. And are we gonna be able to bring in other funds outside of local tax dollars? So that's a discussion for the future. Right now, we're on this location issue, and I appreciate your comments on the Off Arm Road and the LaFar property. I think that's pretty much a given that we would not be interested in either of those parcels for this use. I think.
Well, to, add to the local option tax, when you set that up, you have to set it up with where that money is going to be, directed towards. So if we hypothetically set up local option tax.
Yeah, but we're not discussing a local option tax tonight.
I understand that.
We will have that discussion at some point in time. But tonight, it's about the rec center, community center location, and then the things that we've have got locations offered to us. And I appreciate your input.
I just want to get this information out now to the public while it's fresh. And that way we can all be better prepared when we come to this conversation.
Well, when you get all that information, my suggestion is that you get a hold of Brian and you come and present that before the select board at one of our meetings.
Absolutely, I've talked to Brian on the phone about this stuff.
Okay.
I was just saying, for now, that if you designate the money for specific things like recreation or improvements like that, even for a police station or whatnot, like, that's something that we can very soon start the process, at least because it is a long process.
Well, appreciate your input on that. Does anybody else have any more comments specific? Oh, Sandy.
I'll be brief. I like your idea of being proactive. I think you're always ahead of the game to be proactive and not have to react. And I hope that, and I think that you will, keep in mind all the hours that the rec department has worked on this, and thank you to all of them. And I understand you want to wait another week, and it would be wonderful if after that week is over, you could move forward.
Well, I think we are moving forward, Sandy. I really do, because this is a big issue for this community. We're not going to be the real benefit of that. It's going to be our children and our and if we do this right, it's going to go on for generations. Okay, it's very important, and there are a lot of things that we have to get in order to do that. And unfortunately, it ain't happened fast enough, especially for Betsy. But that's, if we don't do due diligence, we're going to be held responsible later on. I mean, we got, as a board, as a select board, we got to look at the impact of all through the community of everything. So it's not as easy as sometimes it seems, because all these other factors are coming into play, and we certainly appreciate it, because this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for the rec committee. It wouldn't even be happening. And we understand that, and we're trying to work with them. I mean, we took the initiative to meet with Mr. Myers, because we wanted to find out what our options up there. And we're looking at the other properties. So we want to have everything out there. So when we make a decision, or not when we make a decision, in the end, it's going to be the community that's going to make the decision. But whatever we put before them is going to be something that is truly going to be in this community and be something we can all be proud of. And that's our goal, and I know that's their goal too, besides taking care of the needs of our kids. But it's not as easy as everybody seems to think it is, because there's a lot of things that come into play.
I think everybody understands how difficult it is. And I guess I would just stress how important it is to be proactive. And if we had been, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation right now. But I ask you all to remember that a lot of this stuff, I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, because the rec center has been doing all this work for a couple of years. And just to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, I will. We have, even though it doesn't seem it. Heather, one more comment?
I also agree on your point about when we're looking at the sites, the physical sites and the layouts, to plan for the future. As we know in our town, buildings need to get updated, ask for extensions later. It'd be great if we did have a phase 1 and then a potential phase 2 for 10 years maybe down the road or so. It goes by fast.
Yes.
That time, so that, maybe we could secure some other potential sites for later on to expand that way, fields-wise and stuff, because this is such a great need in our community. It is such an amazing program, and dedicated people, and dedicated to our future and our children, that, it's going to be one of those that the benefits are in less like money-wise, but more community-wise. And we want to keep that momentum going by having that larger plan to fall back on that got approved. And I agree, you don't want to get in a tight spot and then not have that ability to expand, like you said, Earl.
Yes.
Yes, Cheryl Underwood. I'm wondering, is the Lavoie Street still on the table, or are you guys taking that off because of the wetlands?
Well, 4th Street is still part of the recreation plan.
She said Lavoie.
Oh, Lavoie. Oh, no, it doesn't, that one didn't look very good either because there's a lot of wetland issues and then as Ross brought up,
Yes.
water and sewer, blah, 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 and this and
Yeah, I
that.
get it in my yard, so.
Okay.
Don't put it there.
It doesn't seem like it's gonna, no, I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, it's not, you know, these properties here easily get thrown out because.
I mean, it's really disconnected from the community. It doesn't have access to
Right.
sidewalks, doesn't have access to
It's
anything.
got storm drain issues, the whole
Yeah.
Lavoie and Spring Street.
I appreciate you bringing that up because, I mean, as far as we're concerned, I mean, we're down to, basically, the site has presented to us with one other possibility that we won't know of for another week. Yes, sir.
Jim Curtis. I'd like to see something happen with what's happening to property. It's been sitting there for like 10 years or more. And, you know, that's a valuable piece of real estate maybe. But what could be more valuable than turning it into something for our kids that they can enjoy and be right close to school and rail trail? I think that's just a given that would be a site that would take top priority.
Well, there've been different plans discussed, here and there as what they do with it, but it'll be up to the recreation committee to bring a plan before. I'm sure they're gonna need it as part of the, the new facility, but, you know. Go ahead, Steve.
Did we talk about a master plan here at one time?
Well, there's kinda going forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Which I think is a good idea. I mean, we're gonna end up with a very nice building somewhere. And I hope it's something that can be seen by everybody that goes down the street, because it would send a nice message of, wow, look what Swanton's got here. So I think we all wanna have as nice a building as we can, in a good location, hopefully it'll have a lot of visibility. One of the things that might drive our decision is how we get funding, whether we borrow for it or we get some grants. Because if the funding becomes an issue, then we have to rethink this. And we may have to do it in phases. We start out with what the rec committee would like in the buildings, and then maybe the basketball area becomes a phase 2 or something. So we don't want to foreclose on any of those. What did we do on the master plan? I should have looked at my notes before I came up. Did we agree to have a study?
We were waiting until we could get the building situation and have that become the focal point of the master plan.
Okay, but the master plan could change the location of the building, is that?
No. We were gonna do the building first and then build from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I just want to make one more comment. Just one more. So we've been at this for almost a year. In September, it'll be a year that the select board said, yes, go for it, let's do it. So in that year, it has been a well thought out plan. And I must say that all of the support that we're receiving tonight is much appreciated. And all the support from the select board. I don't think anybody here says, no, we don't want this. We just want to make sure it's in the right location and that it's well thought out. And I guess I could say that it's taken us a year to do this. It may take us a few more months to make some final decisions, hopefully only a few more months. But just for the community, I think it just shows that, you know, we are thinking about this process and we want to make the best decision for our community, and we're getting there. We're getting there.
We are, you know, I think we're moving in the right direction because we're doing a lot of things that we didn't think we were going to do. You know, we didn't put enough thought into this. I don't think previously select board didn't realize the ramifications this could have. Now we're starting to look at it. And we're saying, hey, we gotta work together with everybody and we gotta come up with a real good plan. And not to say your plan is not good, but there are issues around it that should be addressed because this is a big thing for Swan. And we're actively trying to do that. And I think we can get more support from the community. Now, we will be having, Brian, could you give us an update on the status of the feasibility study?
Okay. There was some preliminary report forwarded out, okay, which basically took the demographics and put them into proper play. I believe there was something received today also from the consultant. I haven't had a chance to look at it. They're stuffing everyone's tax bills. But that just came in this afternoon. So I'm gonna read that tomorrow morning and then ask him when we expect the final report.
Mid-September.
Okay.
Mid-September?
Mm-hmm.
Is he gonna do a presentation or we're?
I can ask him to do a presentation. Sure, he would do it through Zoom, I'm sure. He wouldn't come out here.
I think
so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Will both boards be able to review these documents
Yeah.
beforehand?
Right.
And if documents come in, can you please send them to the recreation department?
Yeah, because once we get that feasibility study and once we've had a chance to discuss it at two boards, and I'd like to have the trustees kind of involved when we get this too, when we have this discussion, because it does affect you guys too. And then after that, we can have a public hearing. And at that point in time, we'll have probably more as far as location is going, and we can start presenting some of the, and what the ramifications of it is.
So, what's your time frame for this?
I'm hoping
secret
October.
location?
If we gotta go, you're saying mid-September?
Is when
She's asking.
I'm asking about the location, what we're
Okay.
supposed to be talking about tonight.
Oh, when are we gonna finalize that?
Yeah.
I think that might be finalized before we have that public hearing, possibly, if everything works out.
When are you, yeah, but when, how long is that gonna take?
I'm
For you to
hoping
get this?
mid-October. I'm hoping
No,
mid-October.
no, you had mentioned another location. She
Oh,
said
that's-
when you're gonna come
Oh,
back.
you'll know
Bring
that
that to the
within a
table.
week.
So what, your next meeting? or
Yes,
you'll-
yes. If you want it to, if we wanna discuss this again at the next meeting, and we have that information, it should be available by the next meeting.
And then we can finalize.
I'm only one member of the select board, Betsy. Somebody's gonna have to make a motion.
Are we gonna follow
Somebody's
the
gotta
same?
second it, and they all gotta vote in favor.
Are we gonna follow the same procedure we did on this study that was put together? Our Swanton Community Center
Yeah.
location?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the people are involved in this will be involved in this property discussion?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Brian, Nicole, Joel, and Billy.
I mean,
Okay.
everything that the board has done up to this time, I mean, we, like with, Shelburne Limestone, we reported that. We reported to you that we have an offer from them, you know, from Tyler, on the Wayside place, so, you know, we're presenting the information as it comes in.
Is 4th Street out as a location?
No one, none of them are out. We haven't made
No,
a
I know,
decision.
Space-wise, as far as parking, and it doesn't make it ideal.
And it's a Brownsfield, so we don't know how long that's
But
gonna.
that's what, how many square feet in the ground do you have to?
Well, we don't know.
It has to be
Originally,
retested.
It has to be retested.
The original was a very small, but because of the use is different, they wanna rerun the test and that could change.
course.
Yep.
The regulations
We get
change.
some change, so.
The original amount being 35 by 35 foot.
Parking lot too.
Yeah, the only, I understand, Betsy, you'd like us to give you a date for a decision. I think the answer is, we wanna make a decision as soon as we can. But by trying to hold us to a date, it might push us to not be able to have a little bit more discussion on something. So I think my feeling is, we want this decision absolutely as soon as possible. But if you say it's gotta be Friday afternoon on the 15th of September, no, I wouldn't buy that.
Well, unfortunately, I don't make that decision. I'm just asking for.
But you're trying to get us to make one, and my answer is,
Well, I am.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to.
I think it's fair to say that this is the number one priority of this board. Is to get something ready to go forward to the community. And we're doing it as fast as we can, and I know it's not fast enough, but that is our goal.
I think all Betsy's asking for is that once you have this information about this other property, that it be provided to us as soon as possible.
It will be.
So that we can all,
Yes,
again,
yeah.
continue to move forward on this.
No problem there, no problem there. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I just wanna say on the 2nd of September, we had the discussion, and this was the meeting, that we were gonna do it, because we wanted the trustees and to get the group to say, this is it, and now we understand there's a week or so with some other bits of information, and then, hopefully at that point, a decision can be made, knowing that there's gonna be a few things out there that are not gonna be 100% the way we wanna make it, but we originally said, yeah, this is the night we're gonna make a decision, and then make sure the trustees were comfortable with it, so we had the leadership of this community.
I understand
on the
what you're
same
saying,
page.
Joe.
I'm just letting you know,
Yeah.
for the people who are
Yeah.
listening now,
Okay.
who weren't listening before.
But you need to understand this too, no matter what location we end up with, there's gonna be other issues we're gonna have to work out.
I know that.
Okay, so.
That's all part of engineering and a process.
Yeah, yeah.
But until you get that piece, which we had, then you start looking at and then figure out how you're gonna deal with it. I
Okay.
understand all
But
that.
we need this one last piece, we
Yeah,
really
that's-
do.
that's
okay?
fine.
We really do, I mean.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think.
Yes.
You know, I've been, as I've shared with you, I've been told that we're gonna have an answer on this other piece of property. And I would like to think that if this works out in our favor, the people present here tonight, the people in Swanton, are gonna be more rest assured that we did our diligence and making the right decisions here. I just wanna go on record saying that.
Okay,
Question.
go ahead.
Sorry, I tried to type it, but nobody looks at my typing, so. When this request for proposal was put out for these properties, was there a deadline that these properties needed to like come in? Like by this date?
Yeah.
Yes.
July 26th was the deadline.
So the one that you guys are waiting on for next week, was it just a late entry?
Yeah, you could say that.
Right.
Yes.
And it's still gonna be considered even though it's past that deadline? I'm just curious.
It is gonna be considered because of the circumstances, and unfortunately, that's all I'm at liberty to say at this time. The party that's involved was asked for this not discussed, and until we have made some kind of a deal, and so we're honoring that. But we're also saying that within a week, we're gonna have that answer. So we're either gonna be able to present this new property, or we're gonna go forward with what we have presently.
So I just have a quick question based on what you just said. You said that this deal is requesting anonymity until there's a deal. So is that to assume that there would be a deal regardless of whether there was a decision to put the rec facility there or not?
No.
Okay,
You probably didn't say it the right way.
just clarifying,
Okay.
that's all.
It's just whether there's even an opportunity, okay?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, the trustees, Neil, you got, yes, yeah.
Neil Spear, village clerk. I'm not talking for my board, but I'm leaning towards what Gordon and David were talking about, and to work with what property that we actually own, and like David said, it's a challenge for that elevation there, but we're up for the challenge, I think, and I think we ought to move forward with a combination of those two properties. 4th Street's gonna take longer. I know all about brownfields issues, so.
Yes, you do.
You could like the ladies are talking, phase it in, but right now, even after considering all these real estate options, you don't wanna put half the price of the community center into a piece of property, then have to go and build the community center on it. If you've got the land that's right adjacent to the rec field anyway. So I'm looking at the proposals that Joel brought through, and if you can get that 9,000 square foot building right there, and work around the Blake Street property, I think that would be a commendable procedure to go forward.
Even myself, listening to the discussion tonight, especially about the issue when Dave started saying, oh, we'll build that in there, yeah, and if you had that, if you had all of the Blake Street property, then maybe changing the access down to there might make a lot more sense. You'd have a really nice presentation, and you'd have some openness, and I think if it was built that way, people would be able, it would be visible.
After you get that information, I would propose that we go back to Cross Consulting.
Yeah.
And discuss with them. I showed the building down deeper into the property. Maybe it moves up where that smaller facility was.
Yeah.
And we look at getting, whether it's feasible to get an access off Lake Street after hearing all this discussion.
Yeah.
I know there was a little bit related to the stormwater, why they wanted to be down there, but maybe it doesn't have to be right down next to the bank. And what we were looking at with the bank was the high room, the gym, having one wall of that right pretty much next to the bank.
The big thing is you could get more square footage for less if you had two approaches at two different plateaus. And then there's just, like you said, from Blake Street looking down, you'd see not as tall a building probably, but you'd see it when you're looking down. And then there'd be access for the large events and the parking, but the base for a parking lot that's there has been sitting there for 100 years with I don't know how much limestone behind it, underneath it, and everything else, and then develop a recreation campus a little bit more around it. Just seems to make a lot of sense for what we have to choose from. And a lot of that expensive infrastructure, like the water lines and the hydrants and all that stuff, was redone right to that point for that complex.
Oh yeah, that's all in the estimate that was prepared by Connor.
And that makes a big deal. It really does.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
So Joel, on that, I didn't understand that. Maybe it's site 2. That was, it was a smaller building, but on a different side of the.
Right, as you first come down the existing entrance into the parking lot, it was off to the left.
So how come that can't be large? Why is it?
That's what I'm saying. We didn't propose that with the engineers. They talked about wanting it more toward and it kind of made sense to the back of the parking area and so on. I mean, it's certainly something we can look at and see about putting it in a different location and talk about the whole Blake Street. I mean, I think it's an option that's worth looking at. It may not significantly change the cost of the building, and then there's just the cost of working the Blake Street entrance, and I don't know about property owners and stuff and that access, but we got a town highway crew and we got a village highway crew that probably could do the majority of that if it came to it. So it certainly is a possibility to have that discussion and say, look, what are the changes by moving the facility? Is it significantly changing the stormwater permit and that needs to be done? And maybe not. And the connection to the water and stuff, yes, it's gonna be a little bit more, but anyway, it's certainly worth looking at. If after you have this other piece and decide, then that's a question we can bring back and then get some engineering feedback on that.
I mean, filling in that area and developing that area, never going to get any more cost effective than the fact that the source for that fill is right there on the property. You don't ever have to go out on a road or pay, a heavy truck. Most likely, they could just run over with one of their large and just dump it right next to the facility and go from there. There's a lot to be said about all that stuff. It really does compound when you start to look at the overall cost for development.
Oh.
No, it's agreeing.
Just one comment I want to make. I think we're very fortunate that Mr. Demers owns that company.
Yes.
They make it to us a lot.
Because it makes that site a little more feasible. Because if you have somebody else in there, it might make it really difficult. He really appreciates being here in Swanton and the community, and he'll support us, and, you know, he'll work with us to make it feasible.
He's been very good to us over the years. Very good to us.
Well, I guess we've discussed everything. We're gonna wait to hear from that, and you guys will know, don't you worry. And if you don't, call me,
I don't even have your number.
you know? On it, 582
I know your home number.
8539, well, you can call that one too.
I know where you live.
Yeah, I was saying, you know where you live.
Now everyone's gonna be calling you on your cell phone, you know that, right?
Okay, I guess, at this point in time, is there any other necessary business, Brian? No. Any public comment, and is that again when they have public, or is that just on issues that we didn't discuss already?
That's the issues that not on the agenda.
Yeah, not on the agenda. Okay. Then I guess we can adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, motion been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, I really appreciate, I think this was a good meeting, a lot of good input, a lot to think about.